notice anything different about me?
You are not frowning.
That's true.
Ah. Your hair is shorter.
I did get a haircut, yes.
Ah.
I'll give you a hint. It's something that I'm not wearing,
A garter belt.
aside from that.
You are missing glasses.
That's right. I no longer need them, in fact. For the first time since I was 8 years old. In many ways, I am still 8 years old. Freudian slip there into the present tense. But yes, I had LASIK done yesterday morning, actually. I'm about 30 hours removed from the procedure. And even though my eyes haven't fully stabilized yet, and it's going to be a few weeks until that's the case, and then a few months before I have full functionality back of tear ducts and automatic wetting of the eye and such like that, the upgrade is astonishing.
Oh.
I'm seeing with clarity I did not know was possible. It's like the world is suddenly in high def, and I didn't realize I'd been seeing it in standard. There.
On VHS.
On VHS cassette. The magnetic distortion that rolled by every now and then. Like from our living room, I can look out and I can actually read the street sign.
Oh.
I can see individual blossoms in the yards of neighbors across the street.
And that was something you couldn't do even with glasses?
No.
Oh.
I could see blotches of color, but no depth at that level. Levels of depth. Like even looking at myself in the mirror, I'm like, wow, I had no idea there was so much old in my face. There.
Well, it's a good thing you got those eyes fixed so you could see that.
I could see the rest of my deterioration in real time.
Exactly. In excruciating detail.
It's been remarkable. And for the first 24 hours, my brain was kind of thinking, yeah, but it's not really that good. Or it was tricked into thinking that I was still wearing corrective lenses. Because part of the procedure, which I will describe in disgusting detail shortly, once it's done, they put a protective contact lens over your eye to hold things in place, and you have a follow-up appointment 24 hours later.
Okay.
And so I could feel, because I was familiar with wearing contacts, I wore those for a couple of decades, I could see well, but I also felt the pressure of the contact on the eye.
Okay.
So brain was thinking, oh, you're just wearing really sharp contacts now.
Okay.
Now, having had them out, it's like, oh, wow, I'm actually seeing without glasses.
They're definitely not contacts. Yeah.
This is incredible. I am still getting used to it. It's pretty neat.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And here I am inside a closed room with no depth with you. So the procedure was pretty straightforward. I had to fill out a lot of paperwork ahead of time, watch this video, and then they made me take a test on the video to make sure I understood everything.
Okay.
And then even on the day of the surgery, they repeated, this is a line they kept hitting over and over again, it's not going to give you perfect vision, where it's going to decrease your dependency on corrective lenses, Sue-proof language that they need to make sure gets home, because, even if you get 20/20 vision, you're likely going to have a halo or something, or reduced night vision or some other things like that, since, you're literally using lasers to gouge portions out of your cornea.
Yeah, that seems like that might cause some damage.
Right, so, I watched this video, and it's a typical medical industrial video, neutral colors, beautiful women saying things in neutral tones.
All right.
Describing the actual procedure with graphics. An incision is made in the cornea. Nice passive language there. An incision is made.
We're gonna cut your eye.
Exactly. It's much easier to tell than first we saw your eye open. And so I was like, okay, that seems straightforward. Now I'd been a candidate for it for a while, and I'd been squirreling away a few $100 here and there for quite a stretch, because it is entirely an elective procedure.
Okay.
But it was one I wanted to get done because I want to be able to see again, Yeah. I would like to, since I'm jogging now as the bulk of what I do for exercise, I'd like to be able to see where I'm going.
Is that important?
That is somewhat important. Swimming too, even with goggles, I can see big planes of fuzzy color in the distance.
Well, goggles are not known for making the world easier to interpret visually, regardless.
Regardless, yes. And other pleasures and such that you don't get up close with bad eyes. I just alluded to something I didn't mean to there.
I was like, I'm maybe gonna leave
It's
that
okay.
one alone.
Nobody listens to this.
Okay, good.
So, so I go in for the procedure, and the first thing they do is give you a series of numbing drops.
Okay.
Whatnot. And because as a surgery, it's not one that you're put under for.
Oh, okay.
And I've had a number of most of the surgeries I've had have been so minor that they have only needed localized anesthesia. I've only been knocked out once, and that was for the wisdom teeth.
Yeah.
So they give you a series of drops, and they sting pretty bad at first. It's like you sweated some sunscreen into your eye.
Okay.
But then it begins to fade, and then they gave us Valium because there was another person going through the procedure at the same time as I was in a different suite.
Is that just to keep you from panicking when something approaches your eyeball?
You'd think. It came in this little syringe, and they said, "No, hold this under your tongue for a couple of minutes, as much as you can. It'll absorb faster, apparently through the veins there, because the skin is so thin.
Yeah.
Then swallow it." So I did, and by the time it was time to lead me back to the actual operating suite, the nurse took me by the arm. It was very much like escorting your drunk, chatty friend to a cab. It's like,
right.
That's really interesting. Yeah. And then they sit me down, and this is a place where the surgeon, they'd asked this beforehand, but then asked again in the suite. So I'm on my back on this very comfortable operating chair with this giant, like HAL-like robot thing swinging above my head that's going to laser me in the eyes. And the surgeon asks, would you like to pray first? And and I say, sure. Because regardless of my own beliefs, I don't want to knock you out of any kind of routine.
Hang on. Maybe I've never had surgery, but is that common?
No, it is not.
If I go into a surgery and before it starts, the surgeon says, "Would you like to pray first?"
Yeah.
I start to panic.
Yes. Well, they gave me Valium.
Oh, so you're fine.
I'm fine. And it's a private institution. It's got a mission.
Okay.
Behind that. All right, fine by me. So I said yes, and he rattled through a very well rehearsed, by rote thing.
Okay.
And then we got started. So there's two parts to the procedure, and I remember from the video, each eye will take about 5 minutes.
Okay.
And the first part is, of course, an incision is made.
Okay.
And then they will peel back that flap, laser blast the correction into the lens, put it back over, put the protective lens on it, and then you're magically done. Roll credits, right? Okay. So how that actually was accomplished, how the incision is made, was first I'm on my back, and they put this plastic container that looks like the viewfinder of a camera over my eye, and then a piece clicks into that, and then there was this what felt like vacuum suction, and I couldn't see. And it was weird. It was not like they put something over it. It was like, it felt like, because of the suction, my eyeball had been pulled out, like they had unplugged my eye. And I first said, I can't see. And they're like, it's all right. It's supposed to be that way. Because it wasn't just, it didn't go black. It was like, it went more brown with an edge of green around the rim. So it felt like, oh crap, did you just sever my optic nerve? Something
But you weren't panicking.
But I wasn't panicking, right? Because I had, again, Valium.
Right, yeah.
So this thing's holding my eye in place, there's just, and then I can't see, and it feels higher out of my head, I don't know how far. And then, the incision is made, I hear some buzzing, and it's like, all right, now let's do it they did that for the other eye. Well, actually, I don't remember if they did the whole eye, and then they went and did the clamp suck thing on the other eye or not. Okay. I was high at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
But what happened after that on both eyes was, then the eye goes back in and I can see again, and everything's kind of it's somewhat clear because I was nearsighted, and I see this pair of special optical tweezers comes in, and they grab onto something that I can't see or feel, begin to move, and then everything is blurry. It's like a jellyfish got pulled over my eye, and I can't feel anything.
And right? Was that them pulling your lens out?
That was them.
Or is it pulling the cornea back?
It was pulling the flap back on the cornea. Then the big arm of the laser machine hoves into view, and it's got a ring of high LED lights around it, and they put this spring around my eye, like a Clockwork Orange spring.
Make sure you can't close it. Yeah.
And this is the point where I quip. It's like, this is funny. I teach film, so now I have a deeper appreciation of that scene from A Clockwork Orange. At least that's what I meant to say. What I said because I was on Valium was, I teach film this thing, and there's A Clockwork Orange. Kubrick or something, right? I was already annoying the surgeon at that time.
You could tell.
I could tell. So the spring's in my eye, and then there's this circle of light pouring into my... And of course, it's bright, so I want to blink, and I can't. So I want to try to look away, but I can't. The surgeon is saying, focus on the little red light in the center, which keeps dancing around. And when it finally was holding position enough, then I hear him say, okay, 26 seconds. Then I hear buzzing and smell burning hair. And I was like, all right. Then the thing comes back into view and pulls what, again, feels like what looks like a jellyfish over my eye. I can suddenly see again. Then there's a brush that comes on as they apply what I can only assume is optical rubber cement and smooth that out and then place the contact lens in. And then it's okay. Now for the other eye.
Okay.
The whole thing took about 10 minutes. And when I sat up, I felt like, I don't know, like eyes had been blasted with lasers. And everything was like looking through a very milky glass. Anyway, I could still see anything, but like I'd been in the pool for way too long and had way too much chlorine in my eyes.
Yeah.
Halos around everything. And then I needed to start a rigid routine of, these drops every half hour for this long. These drops every 2 hours for this long. 5 minutes between drops. Shake them well first. And went home. I didn't drive, of course, because again, Valium and I couldn't see. Was taken home and started to recover. And a day later, everything's looking fine. I can see so much better.
And so the cornea is already smoothed out on top then? Because I've had even just a scratch on my cornea before, and it was agonizing for days. Whatever they do with the rubber cement and the contact lens just kind of makes it a smooth surface again that doesn't... It
seemed to be. I think the follow-up doc said that my left eye looked a little bit irritated, inflamed, but I have the steroid drops for that. Okay. Which... I had asked him about this. It's like, why does my mouth taste like I've been sucking on a battery? He says, oh, that's those drops. They go through the tubes down through your sinuses and sometimes into your mouth. There. And they taste awful. They don't make a good tasting eye drop. Like, that's fair. That's fair. It's the small market.
Yeah.
So after, lost a day to that, and already things look amazing. I got to be very careful, though. I can't do any sort of exercise or anything sweaty for yard work or anything that could result in sweat in my eyes for about a week, and then even after that they want me to wear something protective for a while and just keep children and animals away from your eyes.
Okay.
Which
no poking.
Yeah, but this will be life changing. I think
that's pretty cool.
I can wear sunglasses. I can look through a camera's viewfinder. Yeah. So. That's what I've been up to most recently. What are you working on these days? I understand you just finished a big work commitment. After one of the worst commutes in the country. Yeah.
Up to Redmond from Tacoma and back each day. I'm actually making one more trip once we're done here up to Redmond to return all that equipment. And then I will actually have some time to do things.
What is that equipment again?
It's a laptop and like a badge. It's nothing crazy.
Nothing crazy. Oh, well, once you're done, what are you going to be getting back to?
With the same company, I'm going to have a different contract, but this one will be in Tacoma. I've already kind of started making the transition. So it's basically more data capturing. It's not necessarily terribly exciting, but it's not also in any way difficult. So I've got that going for me. It does have the occasional attack by a meth head.
Data capturing?
Yes.
And meth heads?
Yes.
Can you elaborate?
Well, data capture is what they call just like it's different kinds of studies that the company I'm working for does for other big tech people. So usually it's some kind of motion study they're doing. So it's some kind of filming or something of that where they tell them to do whatever they want them to do to have someone go back later and go through it to mark the frames with whatever they want the computer to learn or something of that nature, depending on the study. And then the setup we have is trying to get the public to come in and do the data capture for the one I'm doing in Tacoma, not the one from from Redmond. And so when the public can come in, that's kind of anybody. And so I got a meth head that almost punched me in the face, and then didn't, and then ran away, and then got arrested by the cops. So yeah, it's just a typical day in Tacoma.
How many experience points did you get for that encounter?
I don't know. I don't know if I beat him or if it was just like if it was a social encounter that could have turned into a combat. I'm not. I'm not entirely sure.
I think based on the meth head winding up in custody, you succeeded in the encounter. You have removed the threat.
Yeah.
So therefore, I would argue you get the XP.
All right. I don't know how much XP a meth head is worth, but as a warrior, I'm like level 0, so probably I leveled up.
Well, I think meth head is also more likely a template that you overlay onto something else.
Okay.
You know, meth head is not a class so much
Is
as
convict a class or a template?
Oh, that's a good question. We should ask some of our game designer.
Yeah, because you can look up in public records people who've been arrested, and so found out that this meth head was also a convict. So
you know who we could ask? A DM for hire.
Which is the other thing I'm working on.
Transitions.
Yeah, Dungeons and Flagons and the DM for Hire project I'm picking up again. With the current position in Tacoma, occasionally there's some downtime and I can plunk out a little bit of an episode. But it's kind of slow going. I'm hoping that is going to pick up now, though, that I'm done with all the Redmond stuff.
How many episodes are you planning for your initial block?
So I have 6.9 already written. Because I still have a couple things to polish off on the 7th. But I have most of 7 done. I'm hoping for at least 20. Initially my eyes were bigger than my stomach, and I was like, I can do 40 of them. And then after writing 6, I was like, I can do less than that. But yeah, I'd like to have enough to release like one a week for like 4 or 5 months. And then figure out if I do more.
Okay. That's quite an endeavor.
Yeah.
Starting with 20.
Yeah. So it's already, I'm like, oh man, after 6, I was like, okay, now here's 7. Okay, now I got to do the 8th one. Okay, here we go.
8 is not a bad place to stop.
And if I do stop there, I mean, I can stop there. I'm trying to set my goals higher than I think is like a difficult goal that if I happen to fall short, I can say, okay, falling short still gets me this,
Still gets you that far,
which is a respectable amount.
Well, speaking as someone who has never overwritten on any project, I don't understand.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Someday maybe you'll be able to relate.
So anything else you're working on?
The only other thing is a super secret project I can't talk about.
What level of can't talk about it?
It's a super secret project.
Is this like the wink and nod can't talk about, but you can hint about?
Here's me winking and nodding.
You didn't.
Did everyone catch that?
He didn't do either of those. I'm just going to check your notes here. A super secret project I can't talk about.
Yeah.
Okay then.
All right.
Will you get to talk about it at a time at which it moves from super secret to merely secret?
Probably.
Well, okay then. We'll look forward to that.
I will at least be able to hint at it at that point, I'm sure.
Will you wink and nod that time?
I will wink and nod.
Well, all right. He just shook his head, and blinking is not the opposite of winking.
No, it is.
It just looks like you have something caught in your eye.
I let's move on. So how about you? What are you working on?
Well, I am still working on the Farther All World Guide, which I just finished age 6 of 9 today in the history section. The 9th age, there's not much to it, but the 7th age is massive. After 6 ages, it's over 60,000 words. That section alone.
Oh, okay.
Which means that the entire book at this point, not done, is about 150,000 words, which is longer than both of the novels combined.
Wow.
And I'm still not done. I have to go through and do the rewrites then. But I am to the point where I'm like, okay, wrap it up. I, who have never overwritten on any project,
right,
always come in at or under scope. It's okay, Tony doesn't listen to this. So that's been a lot of fun and really rewarding. The fear had been, oh man, what am I going to do in the latter ages where I have no landmarks scoped out. Right. You know, because Journey, the 4th age was Journey Quest, 5th is Gamers, 6th was Pwned, right? Yeah. So there was some difficulty there. I was like, okay, how do I get from these established locations? What are the roads that connect them? What are the interesting sites along the way that I can branch into something else? And so for the rest of of 6 and then 7 and 8 and 9, it was a matter of just projecting outward from the state of affairs that was done at the end of those ages. How would these people react? How would this institution grow? What was this discovery mean? And it's been a matter of running the rabbit and then following it into some very interesting places. And without getting into too many spoilers, I think it's going to be pretty neat. It's going to be pretty damn thorough. And even though it's taking a lot longer than I thought, there's going to be so much potential there for future stories in the setting.
Oh, great!
That I think it's really a useful expenditure of time, because it lays out that groundwork, and then anything that we add to it is not going to feel as shoehorned in or retconned, because it's been there from the beginning. We can kind of plot that out, and there's still I'm leaving a lot of stuff intentionally blank. No, I don't know what all the nations of the world are at any given place, or the world leaders or whatnot. And speaking in general terms, this people, this organization. Yeah, a lot of passive voice constructions in here, but still enough that for people who want to make their own material under the Farther All license.
Will there be in some of the upcoming ages, like advances in technology? Will we reach like cyber all by the 9th age, or?
To give you a hint, the 7th, 8th, and 9th ages are the ages of steam, oil, and dust. Okay. So maybe.
All right. So you're saying that age 7 of 9 is not going to have Borg?
Probably not. No. I did see what you did there. Yeah. And the other thing I'm working on, and I'm not really working on this, I'm just watching it and retweeting and helping promote where I can, is the Kickstarter for Journey Quest 4. Yeah. Which we have, I think, 2 weeks left in it. It's at about 175 of 430,000, which is daunting. We're only 40% of the way to the funding goal. But I am not as concerned about it as I was in the campaign for Journey Quest 3. And maybe I'm being foolish about that, but having succeeded in that last one, I'm feeling better about this one. Okay. And there are a few things that are different. The first one is that Journey Quest 4 hit $100,000 of funding in the first 12 hours.
That seems good.
We've never had that before. Okay. After the first 24 hours, JQ3 had 70.
Nice.
And so maybe
so
it was part of that.
That's quite an increase.
Yeah, it certainly was. And Zoe and DG projects have received the favorite project, the little heart button before from Kickstarter. This is the first one to have that on the first day. Nice. And of course, if we've been through this before, you see your biggest spikes of activity in the first 2 days and the last 2 days. Okay. The last 2 days are when the 48-hour reminder emails go out, and anyone who said, like this or remind me of this project, those emails will go out.
Jump out to them.
And one thing that I remember from a PAX panel that I went to with Tony Becerra, this is a long time ago, when we had just started working on Kickstarter, so it was like 2011 or 12. We went to a Kickstarter panel at PAX, and the representative was saying that the magic number seems to be 30%. Mm-hmm. Like if you can get above 30%, when people look at your project, they see it as something that's, we can do this. Okay. And they're more likely to pledge. But if they see it at below 30%, it's more of a, this thing's doomed, and I don't want to. Right. I don't want to help with that. It's like you don't see projects dying at 60%. Right. Or 50% or 80%, whatnot. It's like, well, we're that close. We can all, get out and push a little bit
sure.
more.
I want to see that. I'll go ahead and get behind what looks like a sure thing.
Right. So, and I remember Journey Quest 3 with 24 hours to go. It was $100,000 away. Oof. And we pulled that off because we have the most amazing fans in the world.
Goddamn right.
At the same time, I don't want to take anything for granted. Right. So, I've chewed my fingernails down to the nub there.
That's what they're for.
It's what they are there for, indeed. And I'm quite excited to see this one hit the small screen. It's not going on the big screen, but the
everywhere screen.
The everywhere screen, the tiny little anamorphic. But we'll see what happens in 2 weeks. We'll know. Yeah. Next time we talk, whether or not we are actually making that season.
I will comment that I'm very bitter that Roderick was put up against Ren in the character versus character in round 1. I'm like, I don't even get past round 1.
It's a bad draw. That's Zoe's doing a number of fun fan interaction things this time around, and one of them is the most victorious character competition, where it's basically a 32 bracket elimination tournament based on fan votes of who they think would win in a fight between two characters from Journey Quest.
And I'm like, at least give, you got to give, like, certain characters that have more screen time an easier round one. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, Ren's everyone's favorite.
I know. That's what I'm saying. How could I win?
It's a bad draw. Who would you have preferred to go up against in the first round?
Oh, I don't know. The Ogre.
The Ogre.
Yeah.
Ogre's in the villains bracket.
Oh, so it's heroes versus heroes and villains versus... But is Roderick in the heroes bracket?
He's kind of a neutral...
Is Glorian in the heroes bracket?
Oh, God, no.
Okay.
Glorian is not a hero.
No, I know. I was like,
been
where did
a
he
hero.
end up? How about Caro? Where'd he end up?
He begins as a hero.
Okay. All right.
Despite actions near the end of season 3.
Yeah.
Which is something I can't talk about, is where he goes.
Right.
So what are you reading now?
Well, I think like in the last podcast like this we did, due to all the travel up to Redmond and back, I'm reading podcasts, by which I mean I'm listening to podcasts. Primarily Radiolab. I think I mentioned a little bit about that last time, about some of the interesting stories I'm finding out on there. I know I mentioned the Fugo, the Japanese rice paper balloons that carried bombs across the Pacific.
I was at Fort Stevens with Steve Payne the other week. We took a trip because any excuse for him to drive the M3. And there was a display in their military museum specifically on those balloons.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I went back and after we talked, like, grabbed a few more details. I guess they released like 9,000 of them.
9,000.
And they estimate maybe 10% made it across the ocean.
That's still 900 bombs.
Right. And they've accounted for like 60% of those, I think. So there's 40% just kind of scattered around. They didn't find like any past like 62 until just like 5 years ago. Someone found some in British Columbia, and just like they were like, well, they weren't quite forest rangers, but they were something along those lines. So they'd go out to these entirely deserted areas where like just people don't go, and they're like, oh hey, what's this? Don't approach it. So
don't hit that with sticks.
Yeah, it's I proselytize Radiolab as a program. It's just got some of the most fascinating reporting. Some of it's just these odd stories. Some of it's these really fascinating stories. There's one where it basically like went back and talked about being able to trace AIDS to where it originated at like the early 1900s.
Or 1900? Really?
Yeah. Yeah, the short version of the story is because it did start in primates, I believe apes or chimps. They said probably what happened was, back in the 1900s, I guess all or most tons of chimps have chimp AIDS, the chimp version of AIDS. And they say, a hunter was probably just killing a monkey for food and had a cut on him and their blood touched. And normally that's no big deal because viruses can't transfer between species. But I guess the AIDS virus actually mutates very frequently and on a very predictable clock. And so it just so happened, they were like probably throughout history, like, monkey blood infected with AIDS or chimp blood infected with AIDS is, touched open human wounds, like, because people have been hunting for God knows how long, like hundreds of thousands of times, and it never moved over.
But this
one time, it was just like it had mutated in just such a way at just the right time, and just the right person who maybe their immune system wasn't up to fighting it, whatever it was, it transferred over.
And that person survived long enough to transfer it on as well.
Yeah. And it probably stayed locally there for quite a while. And I think they said it wasn't until like somewhere between the 40s and 60s that it actually probably got out of that like small little section of Africa.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean stuff like that. You're just like, whoa, you can trace that? They're like, yeah, here's how we traced it. And
that's incredible.
Yeah.
And horrifying.
Yeah. But very interesting.
Very interesting.
So
yeah. Well, I'm reading a couple things. I just finished a book earlier this month called White Rage by Carol Anderson, which is the approach it's taking looking at racial dynamics in the United States is how basically every black advancement was met with violent fury by the white population. And not just in the physical manifestation of violence, but in the legal manifestation of violence there. About how, basically black advancement is a threat to white supremacy.
Right.
If African Americans can advance, then that means there's nothing inherently special about whiteness.
Right.
And that cannot be allowed to be true.
Hmm.
So going as far back, before the Civil War, before emancipation, and then afterwards, looking at the obvious things, the Jim Crow laws, all the way up through voter suppression, but clamps put down to prevent the migration, because there were points where we're relying on this labor force in the South that is abused and has no means by which to increase its own wages or safety.
Right.
But factories in the North and the West, they needed population, so they sent recruiters down to the South to entice folks away. Places in Georgia and Alabama and whatnot passed laws to make that illegal, to prevent migration. This is a point where even in World War I and World War II, the southern states, while we were at war, were putting a focus more on keeping schools segregated.
Wow.
To the point where and doing things that have persisted to the present, like making sure that funding for schools is tied to local property taxes. Right there. Stuff that even damages the white communities as well. Mm-hmm. And you can see to this day, what are the states with the worst education there, across the board?
The ones that still have those policies. And
the last the last sections in the book were about the rage response to the election of President Obama. Yeah. And what I thought going into, this is going to be all about the blocking of the Supreme Court nominations and the refusal to confirm judges and all that. It wasn't. It was about steps that the GOP took to assure that this would not happen again. The voter suppression tactics, the legalization of, the ability to say this precinct gets this old malfunctioning equipment. We're not going to have a paper trail. Mm-hmm. There's this place in Texas now that's making it illegal to drive people to the polls and such. And
of course they
are. Incredibly disheartening, but important to know and to be aware of, because this isn't stuff that they teach. Why would they?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So that was depressing and soul crushing, and moving from there, I wanted to read something that wasn't, and I started reading fiction for the first time in over a year.
Oh, nice.
And part of that, I think, has been, and it's been slower going than the other books that I've been reading, not because it's not enjoyable. It's fantastic. It's more that psychologically I feel like maybe I shouldn't be reading fiction. Like there's something irresponsible at this point in history.
That's interesting.
To reading fiction, like to use my reading time not as education and prepping for the big test,
right,
and more as escapism, which I already am using my video watching time for.
Right.
Regardless, the book I'm reading is Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James, which is, I think, the best way to put it. There's a quote on the back here by Neil Gaiman. It's the kind of novel I never realized I was missing until I read it. A dangerous, hallucinatory ancient Africa, which became a fantasy world as well realized as anything Tolkien made, with language as powerful as Angela Carter's. It's as deep and crafty as Gene Wolfe, bloodier than Robert E. Howard, and all Marlon James. It's something very new that feels old in the best way. And that line about Robert E. Howard, who wrote the Conan stories, is the one that got me. And reading it, it feels very much like reading an epic. It's not in it's not in verse, I should say, but there is in the world sort of just a casual acceptance of magic and mythical beasts without an explanation being necessary. There's just this hideous blood-sucking creature that lives in the tree, or this woman who is a witch, and these strange children who have these different realities to their physiology. And aside from it being a known thing that these children exist, there's not an explanation for why. It's just accepted how it is. And it's told in this, it's written in a limited first person that's fascinating. It's the main character, Tracker, is telling his own story, but he's telling it to someone else while he is in prison. Speaking to the Inquisitor who's taking his story. Which is doubly fascinating because it's not the the first person omniscient,
right,
where I'm
don't
telling
know
you my
all the-
story, and then I go back and I explain anything you might not know. He's speaking to someone who has perfect knowledge of this world as well as he does.
Okay.
So there's no need for him to explain, political differences or what this institution is.
Interesting.
These historical events. You're paying really close attention to what are the clues that you're dropping.
Because you have to infer everything.
Exactly, and in that it is just majestic and marvelous, and I'm really enjoying it when I'm reading it. I know. So speaking of stuff that they're getting my fiction and escapism out of watching, what are you watching these days?
Let's see. Hannah and I just finished up Jessica Jones season 3
Oh, how was
because it
that?
just dropped. It was actually really good. I was, it was really good. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out how to describe certain parts without giving stuff away. Like a lot of superhero shows, it's, about what does it mean to be a hero, but they have a very interesting way of approaching that problem that is very much rooted in relationships that have already been established in the show. And it's very well done. It's very well done.
Was it a satisfying conclusion to the series?
Yeah. It was. I thought so. I can see how some people would be disappointed by it, but I was like, that's a fine place to leave that on. I also think it's a place that you could pick it back up from too. So I'm interested to see if Disney Plus does that with some of those Marvel shows. Cause
Do you think it might?
I think it could. I think it very well might. I know there's the demand for it. People want more of that.
Yeah.
Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage. They're not so much needing more Iron Fist.
Not so much.
But yeah, no. Though the other 3 shows were very popular and very very much in demand.
Although the final scene of the final episode of the final season of Iron Fist was really promising, and I was like, whoa, why wasn't this what you were doing the whole time through?
I guess I never really followed Iron Fist, but I guess there are a lot of people who do follow Iron Fist who were very upset about that scene.
Oh, I see. Because non-canonical, or
I guess. Like I say, I didn't follow close enough to know.
I think we're unlikely to
investigate too much more deeply. Yeah, that's not where I'm looking to spend my mental energy that I'm going to waste on things I like. But yeah, now that that's done, Hannah and I are spending some time working our way through Boston Legal. I think I may have mentioned this at the last podcast because we kind of been working through on and off between other shows.
This was a show that began as a spin-off to The Practice, right?
That's my understanding.
Okay, yeah. With James Spader.
James Spader and Bill Shatner, Candice Bergen.
And Renee Auberjonois.
Yep, and
yeah.
eventually John Larroquette.
No kidding.
So, yeah.
I didn't know that.
So yeah, no, it's really an awesome show. Before the U2 movement, it was way awesomer. There are some really problematic moments in this show.
The U2?
Or the... Jesus. Me Too. Me Too. It's obviously been one of those weeks. Before the Me Too movement. Maybe also the U2 movement.
That makes much more
sense. Maybe Bono will get involved at some point. I don't know. No,
U2's been out there for a while. When was this show made?
Before the Me Too movement.
I see.
No, there are, like, definitely in its time, it's sort of portraying almost it's cute that you're, like, really strongly sexually harassing everybody.
Was this the...
Like a boys will be boys
character? Or just in general?
It's a lot of the characters. It's James Spader's character, too.
Oh, right.
They get... Like, as the series goes, they start doing less of that. Like, in season 5, it's less, but it doesn't go away. And there are some times where you're like, oh, hey, they've been doing a lot less of that. And then for an episode, it'll just knock you over the head. So mostly, it's a great show if you can get around that part. I know Hannah at times has said, like, I like this show, but I can't watch any more episodes right now because parts of it just make me so angry. So... A lot of it is really good, though, and having watched it all the way through myself, I'm sharing it with Hannah, it has one of the best conclusions of a series ever.
Really?
Yes. You have to have watched the whole thing for it really to have the impact, but the ending is just, like, the perfect ending to a show.
I was completely unaware.
Yeah, it is just spot on everything that show needed to end on.
Well, excellent.
So yeah, so that's kind of part of why I wanted to run Hannah through that. It was like, this is how you end a show.
The payoff is worth it. Yeah.
So, and it is very funny, and I, very much, most of the philosophy of, say, James Spader's character, I'm like, I like you. For, like, when I was watching the show originally, I remember being like, maybe I should go to law school. I want to do that. And then I was like, well, no, that's not what a lawyer really does all day. So let's not do that. But how about you? What are you unwinding with?
Well, speaking of Rene Auberjonois, I am still working my way through Deep Space Nine and enjoying every minute of it. I'm into season 7 right now, so the bittersweetness of knowing that the series is coming to an end is coming close.
That's which Dax is that?
Esri Dax.
Esri Dax.
It was season 6 had some of the best episodes out there. I was stunned because I guess I hadn't seen it in its initial run of the episode called Far From the Stars, where Sisko hallucinates that he is the 1950s science fiction writer Benny Russell.
Oh, is that
the magazine who
yes? Okay,
refuses to publish his story?
Yeah. Okay.
Because of his race.
Right. Yeah.
And a soul-crushing ending to it.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating about it is he doesn't, when he is hallucinating that he is Russell, he does not remember that he is Sisko. Sisko is the character in the series of stories he's writing.
Right.
That the rest of the writers at the magazine are advocating, this is an excellent story, you need to keep doing this. And I remember watching this episode thinking, oh my God, they're going there. It holds up so well to today. I read about it afterwards. Read a few articles. It's got the only canonical use of the N-word in Star Trek history, and is considered one of the best episodes of Deep Space Nine, as well as one of the best episodes of Star Trek that there's ever been.
Yeah.
I have so enjoyed rewatching this series, and I don't know that rewatching is the right word, because I remember it being on between my time in high school and the middle of college.
Yeah.
Like, it ended in 99, which was the beginning of my junior year, around the time we started making films together.
Yeah.
Right? And I didn't realize how much of the series I had actually missed. Like, I knew the main characters and I knew the main arcs, and I thought I knew the series. But in watching it again, I realized there is so much that I have missed, so much nuance. And part of this may be because I was a teenager or a college student at the time, and I wasn't getting the societal implications of a lot of the stuff that they were satirizing isn't the right word. Discussing.
I mean,
exploring.
I think the exploring is.
And some of them have just been like, I had this remarkable moment watching the episode where Kira and Odo first kissed, because I did not know, because I had missed those episodes, that Odo's love was ever requited.
Oh, okay.
I went to the end of the series thinking that he pined for her but never spoke to her about it, really.
Okay.
Because the selection of episodes I'd seen.
Right. Okay.
And again, remember, this is the 90s. If I missed the beginning of a segment from commercial break, it's gone. There's no way to rewatch it unless you're taping it.
Yeah.
I can't. There wasn't even a really. If I wanted to read up on it online, I had to go to the computer lab at the university, and then look for it on search engines that didn't function that well.
Right. Alta Vista.
Exactly. I didn't know how to find it. So when at the end of that episode with Vic Fontaine, where Odo kisses her on the promenade, I 42-year-old Matt, am delighted, as is 21-year-old Matt, delighted at the same time. It was this nice bit of time travel there, because I identified with that character so hard. Odo, the shape changer who becomes what is needed, who doesn't really feel at home with anyone at that point. It was a beautiful moment.
That's nice
for me personally. So I've been enjoying the hell out of that series. I also watched this week a movie that my brain is angry that I wound up committing memory. It's finite amount of memory to. Because it was a night where it was like, I think it was the night I watched that episode of Deep Space Nine with Far From the Stars, because it was like, I can't watch any more DS9 after this.
Right.
I need to digest that. I need something I will not pay attention to. and I wound up watching The Meg, the giant shark movie, right?
Yeah. No.
Now, a bit about me and sharks. I may have mentioned this before. Sharks are, everyone gets one irrational fear.
Right.
That you don't get to tease them about or whatnot. Mine is sharks.
All right.
Which I think is actually better than spiders or anything. Because a shark can actually kill you. You can be trapped in its environment where you are hampered, and it is the apex predator.
Yeah.
Nothing with that many teeth or the ability to grow more of them should have a brain that small. Right? This is a thing that was swimming in the seas with the dinosaurs and has not needed to update its software since then. Right?
Like our nuclear program.
Like, I think, I don't know why, but I think it was either I was managed to come into the room when I was 4 or something, and my dad was watching Jaws, and I saw something before he changed the channel, or when we were living in Wisconsin as a kid, and we drove for 2 hours to the zoo at Minneapolis, and there was the big tank of sharks, and there was the one shark swimming, the reef sharks with the blunted nose that it could only have gotten by ramming the glass. I had shark dreams as a kid. Those were my go-to nightmares.
Okay.
It was so bad that I still have trouble swimming laps alone in a pool.
Okay.
At the pool at the community center where my son gets his swim lessons. When I swim during the winter, if there's no one else in that pool, half of my brain radar is on. I'm on shark watch. You'll thank me.
Yeah.
All right?
It might sneak in.
Someone might sneak in and drop a shark in the chlorinated water. And
because that is the perfect murder.
Right? Exactly. So my brain is like swim next to the side of the pool, but you do get the best draft in the middle of the swim next to the side of the pool so you can climb out when the shark shows up.
Right.
It's a when now. Yes, it is. So sharks were my fear.
Right.
Which is also matched by a fascination. So
right.
Part of getting over that has been watching shitty shark movies someplace.
Like Sharknado?
Sharknado. Yeah. This was so the Meg is
the Megalodon.
Yeah, the Megalodon. And the thing is, this is a movie where at least one person cared and tried to do what they could to make it good.
Like, you mean one person behind the scenes?
At least one person behind the scenes cared about this. And it's like, you know what? I'm going to do what I can with this turd I've been handed.
Okay.
So, the premise is Jason Statham plays Jason Statham.
All right.
He is every Jason Statham character.
Right.
I'm a gruff white man who does things his own way and gets results, and I don't care if you don't like it. I take my shirt off.
That's That is a spot-on impression, man.
Thank you. And so it's Jason Statham and a bunch of one-note stereotypes.
Okay.
And the thing was, so I'm expecting just a complete crap movie, and it delivered.
Okay.
But at first, it's there's the opening where it's like, okay, so there's this deep sea research station off of the coast of China, right next to a trench, and the premise is that the bottom of this trench is not actually the bottom of the ocean. That there is a layer of sediment down there that's actually a cloud of, what was it? It was of something particles, hydro something. And that there is another layer beneath that, and that this layer is creating a temperature buffer. That it's not sand, but a thermocline.
Okay.
And that beneath it, the water is much warmer, because that deep in the ocean, of course, it's basically freezing.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, that's a decent premise, right?
Sure. Why not?
So they explore down there, they go through it, and yes, it turns out to be a cloud of milky particles, and down beneath that is this alien submerged world. Deep below. It's like, this is actually pretty cool. They've put some thought into that. Look at that. There's some volcanic vents. There's the tube worms there. There's the shrimp that are practicing chemosynthesis.
Okay.
There's all bunch of stuff with the bioluminescence down here and a much warmer temperature. So I'm like, this is not actually a bad premise. And then, of course, down there is where the Megalodon is.
Right.
And Jason Statham is this deep-sea rescue diver, so when the submersible gets attacked by a Megalodon, he's the only one. But I'm retired. I'm not going back. I've done that thing. I'm not crazy. I'm hanging out in Thailand getting drunk every day. But you're the only one who can save us, Mr. Rugged White Man. All right, I'll come white my way through this. There's actually a part where he dives off of the boat to swim towards the Megalodon and save something, white manning himself out there, and the other white man in the group yells, "Hell yeah!" Anyway. uh, Megalodon shows up. He gets down there, rescues the people, brings them up, but in the process of popping through the thermocline, it creates a plume of warm water that allows the Megalodon to come up to the surface. And I'm like, you know what? That, as a basic premise, is okay.
All right.
Everything else, like why the Megalodon doesn't immediately explode when it comes to the surface due to the pressure change of living 5 miles beneath, unless the thermocline is also really reducing water pressure, you can't survive.
Right.
And then the rest of it was hunting down a Megalodon.
Yeah.
But it was all right. But I figured out at the end, because I was paralyzed by its crappiness and managed to watch the titles at the end.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why someone had cared was it was based on a novel.
Huh. There you go.
And the writer
had taken the time to figure out at least some of that. Yeah.
Some of that, yes. So that was that mystery.
All right.
And the final thing I've been watching is this fascinating little British show called Upstart Crow, which is by Ben Elton, who's one of the guys who created Blackadder.
Okay.
And it's a comedy starring David Mitchell from that Mitchell and Webb look as Shakespeare.
Huh.
And it's Shakespeare before he's super famous in the center of his own sitcom.
Okay.
Where he alternates between his lodgings in London and his home in Stratford-on-Avon, as he's trying to figure out how to write his plays. And characters from history and from his plays are all around him. He has, in his London lodgings, there's the daughter of the landlady, Kate, who wants to be an actor.
Okay.
And of course, can't be. And she's basically Kate from Taming of the Shrew and As You Like It, I think is the name of it. No, Rosalind.
Wait.
There.
Yeah.
And his manservant is Bottom, who's like a smart version of Baldric. Christopher Marlowe is a character.
Of course.
Who he did not write any of his own plays. He gets Shakespeare to write them for him so he can maintain his status as a dashing playboy. And it's cute and funny. I don't think it's as good as Blackadder.
Okay.
But it's a pleasant little show.
That's fun.
Yeah. I've been enjoying it.
I'll have to check that out.
It is worth it. Upstart Crow. Was able to stream it through... there's a streaming service called BritBox that is offering a 7-day free trial if you have Amazon Prime. And that's the only place I've been able to find it for free.
Okay.
All right, so the next stage of what are you doing this month? What are you playing?
Where I can, I'm getting in some games of Legend of the Five Rings. Yeah. I actually, in the last month since we did this, I was briefly at your place of work because the Cote was held at DigiPen.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, it was held, I think it was the Saturday after we talked, maybe 2 Saturdays after.
Oh,
yeah.
How'd you do?
I went 3-3. I went really middle.
There's no shame in that. It's the best players in the region.
Yeah, and actually it's a lot of pretty good players. There are a lot of folks who came in from out of town, like a lot. And in fact, the guy who's considered to be pretty much the best in North America came, and he got second place only because he conceded after the match was pretty much over at the very end, because the other guy didn't have a trip or an invitation to Worlds, and he already had 2. So he was like, I concede.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So he's trying to. They have a thing where if you finish top of your clan, you're what's called a Hatamoto. It's just kind of an honorary title. And so he's trying to get Hatamoto with each clan, and he's got 3. He's got Dragon, Crab is what he just got, and something else. Phoenix. So.
Cool.
So, yeah. And then there's new stuff coming out for that. Crane are about to get some really stupid cards. So I'm happy.
So stupid good or
stupid good?
Really?
Stupid good.
Oh, good. Are they adding any factions to the game? Or are they keeping
Not yet.
Okay.
So they might eventually, but who knows?
Not I.
No. So yeah, they are doing some interesting things for those who followed the original story. So the Emperor just got killed by Hante Satori, who is his first son, who in the original storyline is possessed by Fu Leng.
Right.
So in this version, I think it's Kachiko has aligned herself with Satori, because I can't remember exactly why, but Shoju knew that the Emperor didn't want Satori to become the Emperor. He wanted his second son, Daisetsu, to become the Emperor. So Shoju has aligned himself to try to get Daisetsu onto the throne. And so the husband and wife, the big two leaders of the Scorpion clan, are now at odds with each other to figure out what's best for the Empire and what the Scorpion should be doing.
I followed all of that.
Yeah, I thought you would. So yeah, it's kind of cool. People think that's what the Scorpion clan coup is going to be, is that the Scorpion's going to split, and who knows what side will win and who ends up Emperor.
You know, I was thinking about this the other day because the reason I've cited for not getting back in the games, apart from just limited time and funds, is a feeling is like, the story's already been told and it's ignoring its own history. But then, I look at what's playing in the theaters right now, and it's all stuff from the 90s anyway.
Right, yeah.
All the fashions are coming back as well. Why not bring back the first?
And no superhero movie is like the last superhero movie.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what? Yeah, recycle it for a new generation.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So where I have time, that's what I'm doing.
Nice.
Hopefully I have more soon. How about you?
I have not been playing anything.
Wow.
I have not had the time for it. Part of that has been, much of this last week, the kids were with my parents.
Okay.
And so I doubled down and spent all the time that I could pounding away at the World Guide. I had a 30,000 word week in 4 days.
That sounds like a lot.
That is a lot. Well, to give you an example, Pwned was 51,000 words.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you basically put out 60% of Pwned this week.
Well, that week.
Or this week.
Yeah, this week was about the midterm grades for classes. So it was catching up on grading and getting all those done. And it's a big transition point in the semester, not just because it's the halfway point, but because now we're beyond all the essay writing and the script writing and the storyboards, and now you're taking the cameras out over the weekends or during the weeks, depending on when your class is. You're filming your music videos. You're going to be writing and filming your short films as well. We're going to do 3 weeks of that. Reviewing your first and your second cuts, course correcting where they can, suggesting what you should be doing on reshoots, talking about why your stage line doesn't match here. Notice how you flipped your screen direction there. I would suggest a punch in here. This is an emotional scene. Give us the characters' faces. Get in medium close up at the widest here. That sort of thing.
Okay.
Get them prepared for their final shoots. So it goes from a lot of theoretical lecturing, follow along on the slideshows, and I will grade your papers, to let's look at what you yourselves have practically done, and talk about how we can actually change it. And it's
going from theory to practice.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's a fun time in the semester. There's some really clever stuff that comes out.
Good.
Yeah, I dig it. I've been kind of lax, I guess, in one way, and that is there are some ways that I deviate from the coursework that I was given, and one of them is like, I will extend deadlines as long as they get the work in. I'm not going to fail you because you did not turn in an assignment, but you will still get 0 points for it, which can fail you. So get your assignment in, but I'm not going to say here's the hard and fast cutoff date. And another one is, for your scripts, I'm not going to limit you to what is practical and what you could actually shoot. It's like for the purposes of learning the form of the screenplay and how to do shot lists and storyboards, do whatever you want. Okay. Indulge yourself. Go write what you like, and don't worry about page count either. Because I'm expecting these first scripts that are supposed to be like 2 pages maximum. Right. I had 2 that were over 35 this semester. I was like, maybe reined it in a bit there.
Okay, maybe I need to put a little.
Maybe a bit. I haven't had to yet, but so that's cool. So the last couple of weeks, last month really, has been work, semester prep, and then getting ready for the eye zapping as well.
I don't know.
Which has happened, yeah. Questions
from Moritz.
Yes.
Can we expect a sequel to The Stray and the Hole in the Stars, and will it involve Sandy?
Yes and yes.
Excellent. Will we get a glimpse of Sandy's days playing R9E, Romance of the Nine Empires?
We might. So that was a fun Easter egg that we put into the Romance of the Nine Empires 15th anniversary set that AEG put out.
Oh, yeah?
In connection to when the movie came out, right? Because it had 5 sample decks.
Mm-hmm.
And the gimmick was these were the 5 sample decks from the World Championship that was portrayed in the movie.
Cool.
And so, so it was, I think it was Cass had the Holden deck, Weaver had the Ikshasa deck, Meech had Malchior, and then I think there was a 4th deck. Was it 5? I forget. Someone's going to correct me. Anyway, there was an Ord deck.
Okay.
And the Ord deck was played by Jace. Jace had the Displaced decks. That was
there we go. Yeah.
And the 5th one was an Ord deck played by Sandy Moore.
Oh, there you go.
Whose profile pic was missing. Like everyone else, the character from the movie had their picture. You know, here's Natalie Weaver's.
That's fun.
Yeah. And of course, it does tie in a bit to that scene in the LARP where the real Ord actually show up looking for Hop Jockey Sandy, which is what they're saying at that point. In Orcish, because I didn't have a separate language and I wasn't going to take the time to do that for a one-scene joke. Will we get a glimpse of Sandy's days playing R9E? I don't know. But I will tie it in if I can.
We'll see.
We'll see. That's a better way to put it, yes.
From Rival, how have your travels impacted your work as a creator?
Well, basically, it's any form of stimulus can become potential for story or world building. And so, how have my travels improved my work as a creator? It gives me more memories and experiences to draw from. Okay. At its base, you know.
Right on.
Yeah. Like, the one thing I remembered, this whole, like, we started out the podcast talking about this, about getting my eye sawn open and it, having the eyeball unplugged and with a vacuum and staring into a laser and all that. And throughout all this, and it's not comfortable, right? It was not easy to maintain staring into this light and hearing the buzzing and whatnot. Throughout all the discomfort and the existential dread of not being in control of my vision, the writer part of my brain is going, I can use this. There may be a point where I need to write about optic surgery.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
Or some other optic.
Well, hey.
Whatever, yeah.
Am I cyberpunk right now? I used lasers to correct my vision.
Yeah.
If I needed to write about that, I could write authentically about the removal of one's eyeball and the improvement of their vision with lasers.
That sounds totally cyberpunk to me.
Totally cyberpunk.
Metal as hell.
And technically, I did have to go across town to the Pacific Cataract and Laser Institute in Tacoma. So that is how my travels have impacted my work as a creator.
Yeah. So there's your answer, Rival. All right, what we got? From Braxwolf. Is your writing ever inspired by actual gaming experiences? If so, can you give us an example? I think I know this one.
It certainly has been. But it's not so much individual scenes, more as kind of things that make us funny, or the kind of that make us laugh, or kind of characters, or kind of situations that then of course we have to write and distill down into something that doesn't take 6 hours to pay off as a joke.
Right.
There. But yes, it absolutely has.
I know in Journey Quest, the scene, I think you've talked about this before, but the scene with all of the monstrous characters with their support group.
I haven't actually talked about that.
Haven't you?
No.
Okay, I know that directly came from a gaming session we had.
That is an excellent answer. Right, so the scene where the Evil Holics Anonymous is how we referred to it, where the orcs in the Temple of All Dooms are talking about how they've renounced their evil ways.
Yeah.
So...
It was a campaign I was running.
It was a campaign that Nathan was running. I was not a member of the group yet. I had been invited to sit in on the group, I think by Steve.
Yeah, I think we'd invited you to join, and you were like, let me sit in for a session. Let me sit in for a session
to see. And so it's second edition D&D. There's a bunch of the guys who from Dead Gentlemen there. Nathan's running the campaign. Steve Wolbrecht. Don Early was there. A couple of guys who were in the early stuff. Matt J. and Jesse Stratton were there.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in the back, flipping through a second edition player's handbook, and Steve has this character who's basically a gifted sword prodigy child who's like 12 years old, and they can't control her desire to prove that she's the best of everything.
Right, and something, I forget what had just happened. She just, like, got her ass whooped by something, and then, like, they rested and healed just a little bit, but she was, like, eager to prove herself,
right.
like,
And so,
after she'd just been stomped so hard.
And they're in this dungeon. Yeah, so she kicks open a door.
And there's a bunch of
just
dudes
guards
in there.
there. It's like the employees' lounge or something.
Right, yeah.
And this child comes in and yells, "Who is the best among you?"
And this one guy goes, I guess I am.
And she just kills him.
She stabs him right in the face, yeah.
And so combat ensues.
Well, you immediately started laughing before we even got into combat.
You start laughing, and they all look at you, and it's like, what? And I was like, you have no idea what they were discussing before this thing happened.
Right.
They might have just been in there saying, God, I am so glad we finally now just renounced evil.
Yeah.
Thank you, friend, for showing us the moral wrongness of our ways and encouraging us to renounce evil and embrace good.
Truly, you are the best among us.
Then, boom, door kicked open. Who's the best among you? Well, I guess that would be me. I'm dead, right? And so we all had a good laugh. And then I forgot about it for 10 years. and then put it into Journey Quest.
Yeah.
There, as Glorian's arrival. Evil races.
Yeah.
His intro into Season 2. So yes.
There's at least one direct example.
That's how my travels have impacted my work as a creator.
All right, from Moritz, could you name some of the movies that you show in the class you teach and why you have selected them?
I can name all of the movies that I share in that class. To be fair, these are not movies that I selected. I inherited this course, and though I've made some changes to it, it's really well. The curriculum is really well laid out. The movies that are shown are all shown to exemplify the lesson of that week, and are exemplary examples of that. Which is, what do you want an example to be? Is exemplary?
Yes.
Isn't it by definition?
I think those two kind of have to go together.
How about fitting examples?
Ah.
So the movies we watch, they're The Third Man, which is from 1949. It's a black and white film set in Vienna post-war, actually in post-war Vienna.
Oh, wow.
They're filming among the rubble stacks there.
Wow.
And it's a murder mystery starring Orson Welles.
Huh.
And it's fabulous. It holds up really well. It's the movie that we show that every semester it shocks the students who are expecting a boring black and white film that they have to suffer through. And no, it's so modern in many of its sensibilities.
Wow.
And definitely worth watching. It's by Carol Reed, 1949. And what's best about it is that it's not an American film. Even though its stars are both American.
Mm-hmm.
It's from the point of view of an American. It is clearly not an American film because America at the time, cinema was rah rah USA. We were the big winners in the war, right?
Right.
Everything was coming up roses. The rest of the industrialized world was destroyed, but we are at full capacity, and we're heading into an era of unmatched abundance and opportunity, unless you're black.
Right.
This, however, was a British film.
Oh.
They had lost their empire.
Right.
Tons of shades of gray, no moral clarity whatsoever. And into this comes the bumbling, naive American getting a face full of reality of what life is like on the other side of the pond. Fascinating. And it's all about the lesson for that week is armature or theme. Mm-hmm. What is the armature of the third man? This is the essay prompt. What is the armature of the third man, and how do the filmic elements such as the cinematography, the music, the setting exemplify that armature, that theme? Mm-hmm. Second week, Blade Runner. Blade Runner, doesn't matter which version, and the lesson for that week is on 3-act structure. Does Blade Runner follow a traditional 3-act structure? And as far as the industry terms are concerned, is it a high concept movie or a low concept movie? High concept being more about the things that impact the world on a grand scale, and the low concept being more emotive, more about the characters themselves. The third week is on character, antagonist, protagonist, and supporting characters, and it's a choice. You either get to watch Living in Oblivion, which is a 1995, I think, film starring Steve Buscemi about a director desperately trying to get his independent movie made, and the antagonist of the film is the film itself. It's one of the best movies about making movies I've ever seen. Or you can watch One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, about strength of protagonist and antagonist,
Right.
which has been fascinating watching Louise Fletcher play Kai Wynn in Deep Space Nine
Oh, yeah.
after winning the Oscar for
Yeah.
Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
So there's a chance if you choose Cuckoo's Nest that you've watched 3 soul-crushing movies in a row. The Third Man, Blade Runner, and Cuckoo's Nest. Fourth week is about the scene. It's the week where we go off of writing scripts and we go into doing storyboards and camera maps and that such. And the movie we watch is Thank You for Smoking. So we're going to break. We're going to do a comedy.
Okay.
After that, we've seen week 5 is about mise en scène, which is the fancy French term for the stuff in the scene. And basically the use of props, costumes, wardrobe, color to tell the story, to give you insight into characters, to give you insight into relationships and power dynamics and all that. That movie, The Usual Suspects.
Oh.
Because, spoilers, but if you pay attention to certain things like the lighter, like the gold watch, like the bulletin board in Kuyon's office, all these things are clues that upon rewatching it, you just go, how did I miss that? It's so friggin' obvious. The 6th week is about cinematography, discussing the frame, specifically what are the points of attraction that make an interesting frame, that give dominance to the subjects within it. And it's another choice. You get to choose one of 2 movies that, as part of the assignment, you download this JPEG that has 6 still frames from the movie. You select 2 of them and tell me, okay, what are the points of attraction in this shot? Why do they work? And then what are the filmmakers trying to do? How are they using visual language to tell the story in an emotional way rather than dialogue or anything like that?
Right.
And the movies you can watch are Days of Heaven, which I think 1971 by Terrence Malick, which at the time was not a critical success or even a box office success, but has since become considered one of the 100 greatest American films. Filmed a lot of it during Magic Hour. So the cinematography is just remarkable. Very young Richard Gere. Doesn't really follow a 3-act pattern. It's very Terrence Malick. It's like a visual poem in many ways. Fascinating film. And then the other one is a film from 2013 called Mother of George, which is a Nigerian film set in Brooklyn, starring the Nigruria, who you may recognize as Okoye from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or Michonne from The Walking Dead. And is about a couple, newlywed couple struggling with issues of fertility. And the framing in it is like something I've never seen before. In the choice of what is framed, position within the frame, how long certain shots linger, how uncomfortable that makes you, and the use of so many foreground elements and visual obstructions to create the sense that you are viewing something you're not supposed to. It creates this voyeuristic sense throughout the whole movie. Can you tell we recently did these? I'm running on pretty quickly. And then there's the final one is that you have. There's a couple that you can watch optionally for extra points. But the final one is on parallel action, which is, it's not just intercutting between 2 scenes. It's 2 blocks of action that are happening at the same time. And it creates tension when you cut from one to the next, because there's this group of characters with incomplete knowledge and this group of characters with incomplete knowledge heading towards each other. And the film is a Spanish film called Cell 211. It is fan-fucking-tastic, if you can find it. It swept the Spanish, I think they're called the Goyas or something, or maybe that's
It's a
type of
fruit.
bean, a fruit, or whatever. I'm probably getting it wrong. But the Spanish equivalent of the Oscars. And it cleaned up, like won 8 or 9 of them. It is one of the most tense action films I've ever seen. It's the story of a guy named Juan, who's a prison guard. He's starting his first day at this prison in Spain. And apparently, in the Spanish carceral system, you aren't issued a uniform. You go in the clothes you're wearing. They take your stuff, no belt, no shoelaces, no anything like that. But you go in just your clothes. And he's there when this crumbling prison, a piece of it falls and knocks him out. And when he wakes up, the prisoners have revolted and taken one of the other guards prisoner. So he's a guard on the inside that no one else knows is there, because they staged this takeover. And he comes out of a maximum security cell, Cell 211, where he had been when he basically accidentally got knocked out. And suddenly he's their man on the inside of this prison revolt. And it is fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah. and definitely worth watching. One of the most intense ones. Always, student reaction on that one is, that was really intense. So those are the films that we watch as part of the class, which the class's name is Visual Language and Film Analysis.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Morris, do you need more movies?
You can also watch Run Lola Run. That's one of the...
I love Run.
Isn't that fantastic? Yeah. As a wonderful German film from almost
It's
20 years ago.
I was going to say, I was in college, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe high school, Jesus. Yeah, it was a while ago.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they had Deutschmarks at the time. This is
I guess there's that, yeah.
Right?
All right, one last question, the most important one. From Rival, Spider-Man got his powers by being bitten by a radioactive spider. Operating under that logic, what animal would you want to be bitten by?
Pistol shrimp.
I
think that's the one it's called.
The one with the
yes.
the mantis shrimp.
Mantis shrimp. Yeah. So this is.
I think I know what you're.
This is a creature, mantis shrimp. I think. Yeah. That can live underwater. So there's that.
Right.
It can see in a spectrum of color that is one of the widest in the animal kingdom.
So it sees things that are absolutely outside our capacity to perceive.
Absolutely. And it can kill by snapping its fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Which it actually, when it clacks its claws so quickly that it creates a mini sonic boom.
Yeah.
That, like, the pressure wave kills and partially obliterates its prey.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's like fish comes up, I snap at it, it's dead.
I think if I remember, because I saw something about
mantis shrimp. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. The speed at which it moves its claw, it actually sort of creates behind it a small vacuum, and the air filling that up is what creates the sonic boom.
My God.
Or sorry, the water coming in to fill that void is what creates the sonic boom. And I think that if I remember correctly, the water in that area also heats up to boiling temperatures because it's
because of the speed.
Yeah.
This is the critter that can break out of an aquarium by smashing the glass.
Can it? I didn't even know that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So yes, that's what I would be bitten by.
Mantis shrimp, all right.
Yeah. That could be useful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
How about you?
Well, there are a lot of answers. I think I'd probably go with a bonobo. They're the sex monkeys.
I know.
Yeah.
Go ahead, tell them why.
Monkeys. Well, I mean, first, you're a fucking monkey. You're super dexterous. You get to jump around, do flips. You've got amazing dexterity.
You always love the dex-based characters.
I do love dex-based.
Your favorite build has always been the dex build.
You know, I think it has been. It's because I've never understood really what it's like to be strong at all. I'm like, okay, if I'm ever going to be a badass in my life, which is way too late to be now, but if I ever was going to be, it would have to be because of dexterity. It was not going to be because of strength.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so that's always cool. Plus, you get to solve so many problems with sex.
That is true. They initiate intercourse for any reason.
Well, right? I mean, it's for them, it's part of the social structure. It's like, oh, I can see you're getting agitated. Let's have sex to calm you down. Or, hey, how's it going? We haven't seen each other in a while. We should probably have sex. And that's not just male and female. It's male and male, female and female, whatever it is. They're just that's just sort of part of the social sexual structure is, oh, hey, you're not feeling good. Let me grab something and play around with it for a few moments, and that'll release a chemical in you that's like, oh yeah, I guess things aren't so bad, are they? So if I could have an experience like that where I'm just like, I'll solve this, zip.
Well, you know, Nathan, you've had that power all along.
No, I don't think I have. I've pretended I had that power all along. Turns out I did not.
I'm imagining the newspaper headlines, Bonobo Boy strikes again. A bunch of very satisfied-looking bank robbers being led to the paddy wagon. And a banker holding a bag that out like it's a used diaper.
Yeah. I guess in practical terms, there could be some problems using that superpower.
It's not the hero we deserve. It's not the hero we want. It's the hero we need.
deserve.
Or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, either that or something awesome like an octopus. I don't know.
Octopus would be pretty cool. I thought that would be neat as well, but I wanted to live more than 2 years.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, but spiders don't live that long, and Spider-Man's been around for what, 60 years
Since
now?
the 60s, yeah.
50 years at least, yeah. So that's a pretty long-lived spider, and he is still like a teenager.
He is.
I'm saying that's
It's a little bit creepy.
That's some hybrid vigor there. That's
All right. Well, I can see you're looking a little stressed, so.
Yes. So we're gonna go de-stress for a moment here. Do you have anything you want to leave anyone with?
All right. Hi, welcome to Coddiwomple. I'm Matt Vancil.
Oh yeah. The name of it's Coddiwomple is the thing, and I'm Nathan. And you've been listening to us. You should probably listen to this backwards.